week. Only update here, Drayden Washington is going to be good to go for the game, so we'll have him kind of in that rotation. No need to really overdo him with the way those other guys are playing, but we're going to try to ease them back into it a little bit. Bryant Williams will be full go this week, which is good as well. And the kind of the new thing, Cortland Flowers is going to be he'll be suspended indefinitely from our team. So it's a violation of team rules, and we'll leave it at that. So we'll go from there.
So does that mean Amir plays a lot more, or does Amir's time just kind of goes what Cortland did and someone takes Amir's snap? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, Amir's played a bunch of the snaps in the game. Cortland played more, but Amir will step into that role. He was kind of the starter coming out of spring, going into fall camp, and so he'll step back in there. He's the guy who's worked really hard for us, and he's played well, so he'll be ready to go. Maury and Elam will kind of back him up, and we've got some other guys that were working in that spot a little bit as well, as needed. But this week will be a week where there are going to be 11 and 12 personnel, so we'll play some base and some nickel and all that stuff. So we got a guy there that'll be ready to go.
What about Elam? Like, I don't know a whole lot. I mean, I know who he is, but as far as what have you seen from him through camp and all?
Yeah, this guy's as scrappy as can be. You talk to the guys at Neville when he was coming out, and those guys have been around some really good players. And they compared him to some of the best ones they've ever had. Kid plays really fast. It matters to him. He's he's not very big. He's kind of built in the same mold as Amir and some of those other guys, but he's physical. He takes a lot of pride in his work. He's impacted our team on game changers already, and now his role will grow. As he's continued to work. So those guys will go in there. They'll play well for us.
This is kind of a tangent, but y'all have had success with Neville DBs and continue to look to that program at that position group in the future. What has stood out about guys that when y'all go up there, they seem like guys that can be Cajuns football players?
Yeah, we've had some good ones from there. It's I think the program up there for a long time, I have a lot of respect for Coach McCarthy too. Whenever he was running it, they do it at a really high level. Football's important to those guys. They're coached hard. They're coached well. We've had a couple O linemen. We've got a few DBs now. I think they're really well coached. I think that they work hard. When they get into the college setting, it's not. I don't know. It's like it's not shock to them. You got some guys that come in, and some programs are just. Every program's a little different. And some of them are just so far off from it because of a lot of reasons. But they've got the resources and they've got the coaching staff, and for those guys to run it really a lot like a college program, and their players come in here and I think they assimilate a little bit faster, than some other guys. It takes them a little while to get used to not just being in college, but the program and the way it's run and all that stuff. So I think those guys, they come in with a really good base and foundation.
Is it easier, or do you have, I should say, more safeties are an option to help it star in the future? Or is it more it's easier for the cornerbacks to go help there?
It kind of depends, that star position is it's a tough position to play. That guy's got to play in the apex. He's got to fit the run. He's got to play zone drops in pass game. He's got to play man in pass game. So it just kind of depends on who you got. We've had guys in the past that have been safety stars. We've got corner stars. It just depends on kind of who you have there. But with Justin Nagu playing really well, and then Keon playing well, Caleb Anderson, Lorenzel Dubose, those guys playing well, it gives you some freedom at corner. And then at safety, again, you go back, you've got Skip and T. Lou and Cody Jackson's had a couple good weeks of practice here, and Jalen Clark's been playing really well. So you feel like you got plenty of options there. But again, we feel really good about Amir. He's been playing for us there every game, and he's done a good job.
Could Key do that, or it's not in his skills?
Yeah, Key could do that as well. Yeah, he's a physical player. For his size, and he plays really fast there in the slot. So he could do it. We're just working a number of guys in there to, in case something happens that you're ready to go and you can go out there and go function the way you want to.
Do you feel like your team is? I've heard some of the interviews we did yesterday. People talking about waking up at different times and just resetting. Is that like a team-wide deal, whereas you're not concerned about that right now? That adjustment's been made, do you think?
Yeah. We kind of challenge them, like, how important is it to you? You kind of rework your clock, 3 or 4 days in advance, and you know, the way we're set up here, you know, we have breakfast here every morning, starts at 7 a.m. You know, they don't have to be there at 7, but this week we've, you know, kind of challenged them like, hey, if it's important to you to kind of get your clock running in the morning, start doing it this week, because we're going to have breakfast at 7 a.m. before we play on Saturday. So, you know, those guys, you know, it's important to them, and they're, you know, we talked about making sure we're hydrating, doing all those things right, you know, playing at 11 a.m. be a little hotter than it has been, that's fine. You know, I mean, those are things that you kind of prepare them for ahead of time, and, you know, ultimately the ball's in their court. You know, if it's important to you, you'll make those changes. And, you know, we're an afternoon practice team. That's the way that we have been. We're still a traditional school. That's what works for us. Whenever you have a game like that, you know, you just kind of challenge them to adjust their timing a little bit, go to bed a little earlier, do all those things so that, you know, Saturday morning you wake up, it's not a challenge to get your body going. You've been doing it for the whole week.
Whether for the defense as a whole or particularly for the star position, preparing for Tulane, the young quarterback, and some of the things he can do, extending plays, getting outside, what challenges does he represent, or what are the keys to containing him and not letting him create when it's not there?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think he's best whenever he's playing in rhythm and he's comfortable in the pocket, you know, which, I mean, kind of goes without saying, that's how most people are. You know, the big thing that we've got to do, and we kind of fixed it in game against Kennesaw State, but we didn't contain the quarterback very well. And this guy's a good athlete, you know, I mean, if you let him get on the edge, you know, he's a good athlete and he'll hurt you there. But, you know, I mean, I think we have to get pressure with the front four. You know, I don't think you can sit back there and blitz them all day. I mean, they've got good wideouts and they'll get the ball to them in space, and those guys will make plays. So for us, we've got to be able to get pressure in a conventional way, you know, with our 4-down rush. And we got to contain him. You know, I mean, you got to get in your spokes, you got to get in your rush lanes, you got to have some discipline. It's not just about you making a sack, right? It's about containing it, maybe so someone else does. So, you know, you got to play disciplined football against them, and they challenge that. They run the ball well. They set their shots up out of run sets. You know, they're explosive over the top. You know, you have to have good eyes. You have to make sure that you're in the position you need to be in. You got to make sure your eyes are where they're supposed to be. You know, I mean, the offense that they run, I mean, they've scored a bunch of points this year against some good teams, you know, for a reason. You know, they do a really good job on offense. So for us, you just got to, you know, it'd be easy if you say, all you got to do is stop the run and you're going to be good, you know, or all you got to do, hey, man, you can drop 8 and they're going to throw it right to you. It's not like that. I mean, it's going to be real football. You know, I mean, and this will be the first time this year that we have a team that I think really has that type of balance, you know. And so, you know, we've had a natural kind of progression of challenges in the first 3 weeks. You know, I've already said it, this is definitely the biggest one for a lot of reasons, but that's part of it too, is the fact that, you know, they are balanced and they do a good job in both, you know, phases of offense, you know, run and throw.
I know you're tired of me asking me about tight ends, but their tight end's a weapon. Like, how it's been a while. It seemed like they've had a tight end that could be that big of a weapon. What kind of challenge does he present? I
think it's always a challenge, you know, I mean, because those guys are so tight into the run. I mean, if your eyes are off for 1 second, he's out of there and he's open, you know, and that's why the tight end play for us is so important, because, you know, the way, and they use them in a very similar way. And, you know, they've got 4 or 5 tight ends that play. 87 seems to be the one that they're trying to get it to. You know, in the red zone, I think they do a really good job. I mean, next thing you know, they're kind of run, and then all of a sudden he pops out of there, and they've schemed him open. You know, I mean, that they've called some stuff to get him open. You know, I mean, there's a couple of touchdowns he's got. And there's no one around, and I mean, he's made the plays and gone score, but they've done a good job of scheming him open. So, you know, we've had tight ends like that in our league a little bit. You know, I think last year, you know, Troy kind of had a guy they tried to move around a little bit with him like that. I think this guy's maybe a little bit, he's a little bit more well versed in the pass game. You know, South Al's had some guys like that they've done a really good job with. So, you know, we've had some in the league, but it certainly poses a threat. You know, I mean, it'd be a whole lot easier if you know, tight ends were just some duds that, you know, I mean, all they could do was play in the run game. But that's, you know, I mean, shoot, they're one of their other tight ends made a great catch in the Oklahoma game in the back corner of the end zone. So, I mean, they're good players. That adds another layer to what you have to defend. And I think the biggest thing with tight ends as passing threats is you have to play with great eye discipline, you know, to make sure that, you know, you're taking those guys out. You know, you think they're down blocking, next thing you know, he slips out and he's up the seam and there's nobody around him. So we got to do a good job and play with discipline there, because they use them, and those guys they've made plays too.
that catch by that tight end was the other quarterback that they use kind of wrinkles in around the 10-yard line. How much of a wrinkle is that for y'all to prepare when 7 goes in versus just kind of worrying about yourselves and business as usual?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to being really disciplined. You have to know that he's in there, naturally, because that opens up a whole nother box, of things that they can do. And I think they've done a good job. They've used him as a decoy too,
Yeah.
and they do it. It's not like, well, he's in there, he's getting the ball in some way, shape, or form. They've got a good little package in there that they use. But again, you have to play with discipline. You have to play the gaps you're supposed to play. You have to play the leverage you're supposed to play. And you have to have your eyes on your keys. And when you do that, defense is supposed to work, so you just got to do it. You got to play with a lot of discipline, and you got to, you're going to have to make plays on the ball because they're receivers and tight ends and, all their skill guys make plays.
This opportunity you talked about it Monday, but it's not a conference game. It's not, Grambling or, a school, and then it's not playing. It's like, seems like a bigger game than most non-conference games. Like, y'all been preparing your whole off season to show we're better this year. Like, this is the first real chance to really show. Just talk about this game, what it means.
Yeah, I mean, it's you hit the nail on the head, and that's what we talked about. Like, our season is not going to be defined by one game. Whether we win this game or we come up short, it's not going to define the season. But it's an opportunity for us to kind of show how much work we've done to improve ourselves. I think a lot of this team, I think they're a really good football team. I've watched every play. All 3 phases of the first 3 games they played, they've got good players, they've got good scheme, they've got good coaches. These are the games that make you as a team, and we've got to prepare the right way, continue to prepare the right way, and we've got to go out and we've got to compete. I told our guys today, you have to want to play this game more than they do, and as stupid as that might sound to some people, we have to be more excited to play this game than them. And I think for us, there's a lot on the line. It's the first time that we're probably not going to be favored to win a game. Great, that's a new situation to have to be in. It's a team that poses different threats on offense and defense than what you had before. Great. I mean, that's you need these challenges throughout the way so that you can prepare. I mean, there are no more easy games on the schedule. It doesn't matter who you think you're going to circle, and there's no more of those for us. And we have to learn to prepare week after week with the consistency to go out there and play at a high level. And if you do, you'll go out there and you'll go play and you'll have a chance to win. If you don't prepare well, you won't. I mean, it's that simple. So, it's a big game for us, and made no bones about it. This is an opportunity for us to kind of show who we are, to really find out who we are, probably as much as anything, right? Because I think we have a pretty good football team. Well, I know they've got a good football team. We'll get a chance to find out.